Hello storytellers, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Lauren. I'm an actress, teacher and all-round storyteller. This is my wonderful husband who comes with me on some of my adventures, and today we're going to talk about our experience visiting the Design Museum where they hosted the World of Tim Burton exhibition. This is us entering the exhibition itself. It's very fitting with Tim Burton's style, the kind of font on the wall and the kitty cats. And from the moment we entered, you could see all of the information about the exhibition, the history of it, as well as a timeline and the history of Tim Burton's work himself, going through every single film he has worked on or produced throughout his career. Hey look, it's the year I was born! I'm about to enter in my element. I'm so excited. So as you turn the corner, you are greeted with the pastel houses, which is obviously a nod to Edward Scissorhands, one of Tim Burton's sort of most famous pieces of work he's created. It's personally my favourite film that he has created. I even wrote an essay about it at university. It was filled with vast information. There was a lot to read, all about his art, where he started, what inspired him, how he was influenced by his childhood, and yeah, it was really interesting to watch and to see his office. But the next section, you could see more art, but you could also see the models from some of his animated works, particularly his stop motion works like Nightmare Before Christmas, Corpse Bride, Frankenweenie. There was some from Mars Attacks as well. And Dan noticed there was no glass on these parts of the exhibit.
Yes, it meant that obviously if you took a photo or a video, there was no glare. It made it much easier to see all the details in what you were looking at.
The only place there was glass was with the costumes, because obviously they do not want there to be any risk of those being touched or taken, because some of them are considerably old. Very Night Before Christmas, very Mars Attacks, kind of gives Beetlejuice vibes. Definitely Mars Attacks.
0.
Yeah. And there's Jack. They're cool. Hello.
Hiya.
What'd you think?
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm glad I've come to it.
Thank you for coming with me.
Okay.
Mwah. I would wear this. I would wear both of those. I would wear all of it. Chef's kiss. The end of the exhibit was more about artists who have been inspired by Tim Burton, or Tim Burton's sort of lesser known work, such as Stain Boy and his work on music videos with the Killers. He did Bones and
Here With Me?
Here With Me, yeah. So the end was less about him, but more about where his work has taken others. So that was our experience. I personally absolutely adored and loved it. I am a huge Tim Burton fan. Daniel is not.
No,
it's not you don't like him, it's you don't hate him either, you're just quite...
I'm quite indifferent to it. I don't get some of it. I really like gothic fashion and everything like that, but I don't always necessarily get the need to put it all together into such a condensed space. Yeah, it's a great exhibit. It was very well laid out.
And also how they laid it out, there were lots of nods to his work or his style.
Yes, and as you progressed through the exhibition, for the most part it felt kind of like a timeline of where you were going, because we saw the timeline as we walked in, and then we were looking at early drawings from before he had done anything. Yeah.
So yeah, the beginning bit with the houses, it definitely was like, this is where he started, this is his childhood influence, this is what went down at Disney. His office setup he takes with him everywhere he goes. And it was more when you got into the section with the models and the costumes, you do kind of lose that timeline a little bit, because then it's becoming about specific products and projects he's worked on that have become notable or have a fan or cult following. Personally, my favourite bit was the models or seeing Edward Scissorhands' actual scissors hands.
Yeah. So. So the first section you walked through had obviously lots of his drawings when he was a teenager or as a child, and it even showed some extracts from a children's book he sent to Disney.
Yeah, it included his letter he sent with it and the response he got back to give him feedback of how to market and improve his sort of art style and storyline for it.
So
I kind of wish they sold that in the shop.
Yeah, the only thing that was kind of off that timeline that we were just talking about is that you go through this bit that's very early Tim Burton, like pre-Tim Burton, and then it talks a lot about in there about how Disney weren't interested in the stop motion and the models, and then the next section is the model. So it's kind of a dichotomy. But it obviously then also tries to show you the models in the order that he was allowed to make them.
As someone who's done like a vast amount of research into Tim Burton, mostly in my academic career, I studied him at university as part of my independent study. I also did a film module, which meant I could study him further. I've got a book of his philosophies that have come behind his work. I've got his Burton on Burton book. I've got multiple different biographies of his. But to see it with the art actually helped, I suppose, conceptualise.
I have to think contextualise, but
his life. And to see, you know, yes, it's more factual than like the Burton on Burton book, which is obviously him as an interview. It's a bit more fact-based. It was interesting to sort of see, so like when this was happening, this is actually the art he was creating. This is what Disney were not interested in producing. We even watched a bit of his version of Hansel and Gretel, which he made while at Disney. It is haunting.
It was great.
It's great, but it was haunting. I can see why Disney at that time period, it was too much for them.
Because they only showed it once on television.
Yeah, they showed it once on Halloween and then it was pulled and never shown again because it was deemed too creepy.
But it was quite interesting because it mentioned in the write-up about it that he took a lot of inspiration from like Japanese culture and design, which was kind of well ahead of its time for horror.
Yes.
Although it wasn't a horror piece, it was meant to be, you know, it's meant to have elements of the unusual and the kind of wrong, and he took a lot of inspiration from Japanese media, which the world does a lot now, but wasn't common at then.
Yeah, so overall I'm incredibly happy that we got to go, although it is in its final stint in London. I've been wanting to go since it got here, which was like a year ago. I personally would say that was a 10 out of 10 exhibit. Even though it had no interactive elements, there was so much there to read and be absorbed in that I didn't feel like I was missing out on anything. Whereas we've been to exhibits like this before where it's been a lot, there's been a lot less there. And so it's like we either need something interactive or you need to expand or you need to go into more detail. This went into detail.
Yes. Another thing I would say, talking again a little bit about the flow of the exhibit, is that we walked through this first section where it showed drawings, and then it also mentioned in there a few times how the person from Disney who replied to his story said it was kind of derogative of Dr. Seuss. And then when you go into the models room, if you actually followed the path in a zigzag, the first thing it shows you was his inspirations, including stuff by Dr. Seuss. Yeah. We kind of dive into the models because it catches your eyes. But if you
I got hooked quick.
If you literally, that was one thing that maybe the exhibit could have done a little bit better. There could have been a little bit of direction to show you that actually you should have gone this way first to see the inspiration.
Well, if they were really smart about this, if they were going to do it, if they wanted it to be like you go this way down this path and you follow it a bit more structurally, they could have played on the fact that he did Alice in Wonderland this way, that way.
Yeah.
With the signposting and stuff like that. Not all of his films were covered, I think is the best way of putting it. I think nearly all of them were covered. But in terms of seeing the art from it, not everything was fully...
Yeah, I'm not sure if every film had a big piece, but like every film that certainly I could think of, there was at least a model or a something, or you know.
I think for me, being like a huge Tim Burton fan, there was obviously some films that are maybe not as
covered.
Yeah, so there was nothing there for Big Fish.
There was one exhibit for Big Fish.
It was one little thing, but there was no like art or physical thing.
Did you not see the prop?
I mean, that one fish.
Yeah.
But there wasn't. It was a model before the film. Like it wasn't. Yeah. So I feel like they could have gone on a bit more about Big Fish. I know some people consider it a flop, even though I think personally it's a fantastic film. There was not a single thing for Dark Shadows, which I personally am fine with, because I was not a fan of the movie Dark Shadows. I think it is his worst of his collection. So I'm personally not bothered by that, but I know there are some people out there who do actually really enjoy it, and so there was less of that. We had one costume from Alice in Wonderland, and that was it. If you were a Batman fan, there was one wall with some art, and then the Michelle Pfeiffer costume of Catwoman, and that was it. So yeah, not everything got covered in detail, but generally the written part of the exhibit was quite detailed.
Yeah, I think also everything, if something didn't have great detail, it had still just enough that if you were interested, you might go away and look at more.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the point of an exhibit like this, isn't it?
On top of the exhibit, they have 2 shops dedicated to him, which I'm very, very thankful for.
They did both sell the same stuff.
They did sell the same stuff. So the first shop was attached to the exhibit. So when you come out at the end, as always, there's a gift shop. So being there meant you could look around. It's quite small. Getting in and out of there was hard work. But if, let's say, you couldn't stand being in that smaller space, if you come out of the design museum, they have like a shop at the front, so you can go in there instead of going into the whole museum, and his stuff was in there as well.
Yeah.
So there are 2 locations you could get merchandise. We obviously did get merchandise, but before we go into that, is there anything else you want to talk about do with the exhibit, other than the fact that your wife is obsessed and wants to go back, but she knows she won't get the chance to?
So, wrapping up the exhibit,
Mm-hmm.
You said it was more stuff that he had inspired, but I kind of liked that whole hallway design and how it looked, and it kind of, the idea of making it feel like you're a bit more in a Tim Burton kind of work or realm. And then obviously the little documentary, the mini documentary right at the end, which you could sit down.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Yeah. So there was a little cinema, a very small cinema screen at the end that showed a short snippet of a bigger documentary about Tim Burton. It occurred to me afterwards, I think I've actually watched that documentary.
I feel like I've seen some of that footage before, but not all of it.
But that was a really nice way to end it.
But I feel like I've seen that footage when you've been watching the like Disney documentaries on Disney, and some of that mini documentary wasn't Disney. So I'm wondering if they've kind of spliced together different
bits. Yeah. But no, thoroughly enjoyed it. Would recommend if you are into art or you're a big Tim Burton fan. I'd say even so if you are into just filmmaking, although it is an art exhibit, there was a lot in there about how he made these films work, and the structure of it, and the conceptualization and the storyboarding and the process. That was great. The one thing I wish they did include, and it's a very small thing, he is known for collaborating with Danny Elfman, and so I was kind of hoping there would be like a section or a bit where you could put on some headphones and you could like here's some like early compositions that they worked on together. That's such a famous partnership, and there wasn't a single thing about Danny Elfman in there.
I think that's because it's the design museum, so it's purely how the films are designed.
But I would argue that they are designing the sound to go with the conceptual art.
Yeah, I'm not sure they would agree.
I know, but if I was to do it, I would say, actually, I know it's a design museum, but I think we need to include the music, because that style of music has become synonymous with them in the filmmaking world. Look at me using a big word. I used etymology earlier this week as well.
Wow.
I know.
2 in 1 week.
I know. Proud of myself. Probably going to fluff it up later and say something wrong, like I always do. Merch. Bags are very basic. I think we had to pay for this bag, didn't we?
Yeah.
It was like 10p.
There were tote bags. They did also sell bags.
There was a bag I wanted to buy that was essentially a tote bag, but it was £35.
Yes.
And I couldn't justify a tote bag for £35.
So they had they had like what is a tote bag, which they sold for a couple of pounds at the till.
It was £8, £6 or £8 at the till.
Right, and then they had this, which was more like,
it's like a proper canvassy,
somewhere between a tote bag and a beach bag is how I would describe it. Right. Which was 35-ish pounds, which is quite a lot for a tote/beach bag.
Yeah.
But
I, in hindsight, am wishing I had just sucked it up and got it, because I would use it. I probably would have used it as our beach bag going on holiday. So I may do a little bit of research online later to see if I can get it post-event. Maybe the Design Museum might sell some stuff online, I don't know. But I couldn't justify the time, because my brain was like, this bag is not worth £35. But actually thinking about it, I would use it. So there we are. I only got 3 things, I want to say, from the Design Museum, Tim Burton stuff. We didn't look around the whole museum. We did not have time.
All the patience.
I would like to go back at some point and experience that museum, because the actual structure of the museum and the layout I quite enjoyed. I feel like there'd be a lot there we would be interested in. So the first thing I got, which was the most important thing, there was absolutely no way I was living without it, is this. It is Tim Burton Designing Worlds book. I do believe you can buy this elsewhere, although it is by the Design Museum. I do believe you can buy this elsewhere. But this, again, it just goes into a lot more detail about his art, the design. There's stuff in here that wasn't in the exhibit. So, you know, this is... Let me see if I can...
The exhibit was to prep you to want to read this.
Yeah, and it did a very good job. So I'm very much looking forward to sitting down and reading this back to back, which I will do. This cost me... Monies. Let me see if I've still got the receipt, because it's been a hot minute. This cost me £29.95. So £30. It cost me £30. For a big book like that from an event, I think that is a good price. Maybe not a good price, but an expected price. I would expect to be paying £25 to £30 for that. I'm very excited about reading it. Are you going to read it?
No.
No, didn't think so. Another thing that me and Dan have got into recently is puzzles. We've been trying to build a rather large puzzle. I'm staring at it right now on our table. It's taken us well over a month.
Yeah, we've not been making quick progress.
We did start making very quick progress. We're now on like the tricky filling in gaps bit, and so now it's a slog. But we are determined to finish it, and I want to do more puzzles and frame them and put them around our house. So we got this.
Space monsters.
Yes. Tim Burton is heavily inspired by sci-fi and fantasy. You can see that in his work. The box of this, unfortunately, has been a little bit damaged. That is our fault. It's 750 pieces. The assembled side is 600 times 435 mm. So that's millimetres, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
What's that in centimetres?
don't know.
60 by 43 and a half.
Oh, nice. And this was £25. Still got the price on it. I am excited to build this. I do want to frame it. I know exactly where I want to put it in our living room. I haven't opened it yet. It is literally just in a bag. We are not going to start this until we finish that one, which is annoying because I could probably finish this in a day or two, and I have a week off. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll clear our living room table and I'll sit and smash this one out.
Yeah, especially because like this is coloured up to the edge, so there's always detail to go off of.
Yeah, whereas the one we do at the moment, there's a lot of big spaces of just blue.
Yeah.
It's all the same shade of blue. There's technically black lines on top of the blue. But you can't see them. And the only other thing...
Hello, bit of garden.
The only other thing I got was a t-shirt.
Ah, that's where the bit of card came
That's
from.
where the bit of card came from, yeah. Try not to exclude my husband. I love her. She's one of his earlier drawings. You can definitely tell like the Sally vibes. She simultaneously gives me Sally vibes because of the blue with the red hair. But I also swear there was a character like this in Beetlejuice where she's got like her leg detached on her lap.
So it mentioned it in the section about the Blue Lady, which is what she's called. That there is a version of her in almost every Tim Burton film.
Yeah.
And that Sally is basically the version of her that is also a main character.
Yeah. So on the left-hand side sleeve, there's a little love heart, and then on the back, it just says, "The World of Tim Burton, the Design Museum." Yeah. We'll wear this. I'll probably get quite a lot of wear out of this as like a day-to-day t-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this cost me £25. So for a t-shirt, and the quality does feel nice. It is a little see-through, so I can see you through that. But when you've got that up against skin,
you won't see through it.
So yeah, it is a nice quality. Sizing seems quite reasonable as well. I want to say this is an XL we got me.
Yeah.
Yeah, extra large we got me. I'm a size 18 to 20 on average. So that also kind of fits the average. Anyway, that's us. Thank you for watching. If you are a Tim Burton fan, please comment down below. I need some buddies to talk to about it because I don't know many of my friends are that keen on him. You are not that keen on him. We established this early on in our relationship, but it's fine because I'm not that keen on
anything I do.
Apparently, yes, because I'm not keen on what he just did. Please like and subscribe. There is going to be more content coming to the channel. I am trying to keep this up a bit more regular and taking us out and doing things, some days in the life videos, some travel videos.
Yeah.
Peace out.
Peace out.
Deuce.